The infrastructure in a borderland oftentimes blocks visibility and access to the other side. A highway built up tall, a bridge with fencing. But for nearly 2 weeks in November, searchlight beams made specifically for the El Paso-Juárez border resisted those divides. Carrie Doyle, the curator for the art installation on the El Paso side, talked about how the Canadian-Mexican artist considered the site for his project.
The Rubin Center, we've been specializing in cross-border projects for a very long time now, so more than a decade. And so Raphael kind of put a call out that he wanted to do a border piece and where would be a good place to do it. And he heard from a lot of artists that had worked with us in the past on cross-border projects, people that he knew or were friends with. So he reached out specifically to us to see if we had an interest in producing the project with him. It's an enormously powerful platform to kind of see the lights in the night sky over this, hugely militarized border, and then hear these voices having these sort of soft conversations about memories and about place and about their connection to the other place. And it was extremely beautiful.
The art installation, known as Border Tuner, used a small dial to control beams that activate a microphone and generate conversations across the border. With thousands of people crossing to either side each day, organic connections between residents already exist. But as artist Leon de la Rosa points out, life in the two cities can look very different.
That's the other thing that I think was very significant about Border Tuner was how much it shed light, yes, on the connections that were already a given and were already existent between Juárez and El Paso, but also how big of strangers we are to each other. I often make the point of saying that, that saying that we are ciudades hermanas, sister cities, right? No, I don't think we are. I think we're more like step-sister cities, ciudades hermanastras.
Motivar a la gente, a las personas de escribir. Entre ellos destaca el premio Chihuahua.
Still, the cities will be linked through the Cross-Border Artistic Fund, an idea that sprang up in conversations about what the installation would tangibly contribute to the local community. In early 2020, artists wishing to make use of the fund can start expressing interest. For Leon, Border Tuner caused him to reflect on what it means to go back and forth between Juárez and El Paso, and how perceptions of that lifestyle can vary from person to person.
Somebody like me who spent 10 years of his life, my life, going across the border every single day, it's tempting to believe that border is non-existent and that border is immaterial and that border, it's meaningless because you go across so often. But guess what? I'm very privileged in doing that. I'm very privileged in being able to do that. And for a ton of people that are not as privileged or have been as lucky as I have been, that border means a hell of a lot more, and that divide means a hell of a lot more than it does to me.
The installation arrived months into a program that requires asylum seekers to wait in Mexico until they have a court hearing in the U.S. Since the start of the Remain in Mexico policy, more than 600 migrants have been the victims of violent crimes.
As we were doing this piece between the Chamizal Park in Juárez and also the Bowie High School in El Paso, we were right next to a really large camp of internal migrants from Mexico who were waiting, outside of the bridge because of this new policy of the Trump administration of having people wait in Mexico to apply for political asylum. So we had, families within, I'd say 300 meters or 400 meters of where our installation was. They were sleeping out in the cold in tents. And so, it becomes, in this project, the border for a lot of us was sort of a theory or nostalgia or kind of an expression of connection. But you can never forget the reality of the border when you're producing these sort of projects. And so there is a tension between a project like that and then the actual reality, even though I think in the long run, this project is part of a larger and important conversation about the importance of the borderlands and the connection between the two places and the effect of the border on our relationships, and both as a connector and a divider, but it's there always is a lot of tension with these things, and I think coming myself from a background.
For many, the reality is filled with uncertainty and fear. But whether it's through humanitarian aid for migrants or communicating in a new way with the other side, border communities find ways to defy outside influence.